Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda and I'm from Amanda Crochets, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this cluster V-stitch baby blanket. This blanket measures approximately 31 inches across by 31 inches tall, and I used a variety of different colors to make this striped blanket. You can always make this in a solid color or using variegated yarn, whatever you choose to use. I really like this color combination, and I really wanted to use this new yarn that I haven't tried before. So let's get started on today's tutorial making the cluster V-stitch baby blanket. Before we get started with the tutorial, I just wanted to do a close-up look of the finished blanket, and you can see the little V-stitches right here, right on top of one another. It's a really fun and easy stitch once you get the hang of it, and it just works up really quickly. So for today's tutorial, you're going to need 4 different colors, and I'm using a new yarn that I haven't used before, and this is the Yarn Bee Soft and Sleek Low Pill Fiber, and you can find this at Hobby Lobby. This is a 5-ounce skein, or 232 yards. It is 213 meters, or 142 grams, and it is 100% low pill acrylic. It's considered a number 4 worsted weight yarn, and it is machine washable. The recommended knitting needle is a size 8 or 5 millimeter, and the recommended hook size is a J10 or 6 millimeter. And this first color that I'm using is called Brownie. And this is a super soft yarn, so if you really like the soft yarns from Hobby Lobby, this is definitely one to pick up. And the low pill fiber means you're not going to get the fuzz balls on the yarn like some of the other yarns will have. So this is Brownie. You're going to need 1 skein of 4 different colors if you're still using the same color scheme as I am. And this second color is called Linen. This third color is called Ivory. And last but not least, our last color is light blue. So again, you're going to need 1 skein of each of these 4 colors if you're using the same yarn as me. If you are using a different yarn, then you're going to need a different amount of yarn. And I'm bumping up my hook size because I wanted my blanket to be a little bit more drapey, so I'm using a K10.5 or 6.5 millimeter crochet hook. So let's get started on making the tutorial. Okay, so for today's tutorial I'm just going to be working that lighter color, the linen color, just so you could see it a little bit more clearly. And you're going to need to make a chain in 120. If you want to make your blanket a little bit bigger or smaller, you're going to need to chain in a multiple of 3 until your desired width. So again, for my baby blanket, I'm going to be making a chain of 120. If you're going to be making a small swatch like I'm going to show you here today, you're going to be working in a multiple of 3. So I'm just going to do 3 times 10, which is 30. So to make a chain, you're going to do yarn over your hook and pull through that loop on your hook. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Continue until you have a total of 120 chains, or your multiple of 3. Okay, so once you have your multiple of 3 or your chain of 120, we can begin row 1. For row 1, we're going to be working a single crochet into the second chain from your hook. So that loop on your hook does not count. You're going to count 2 chains, 1 and 2. And in that second chain, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. You're going to make 1 single crochet in each of the chains across. So going into that next chain, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. and that is how you make a single crochet. Continue making one single crochet in each of the chains across, and I will show you how to move on to row 2. Okay, I'm over at the end of row 1 and I have all my single crochets. Next I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn. That's chain 1 is not going to count as a stitch, so working in that very first stitch we're going to be making a double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook into that very first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and that is your double crochet. Next we're going to skip 1 stitch and we're going to be making our cluster V-stitch in the next stitch. So skip this stitch, and in the stitch after that we're going to work our cluster V-stitch. A cluster V-stitch in this pattern is double crochet 2 together, chain 1, double crochet 2 together, all into that same stitch. So skip the next stitch, and the stitch after that make your cluster V-stitch. Yarn over your hook, insert your hook into that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. Stop your stitch right here. We're going to yarn over, we're going to insert our hook back into that same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. You now have 4 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over, pull through 2, and then you're going to close the stitch by making a yarn over and pulling through all 3 loops on your hook. And that is a double crochet 2 together. We're going to chain 1, and working in that same stitch we're going to do another double crochet 2 together. So yarn over your hook, insert your hook into that same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over your hook, insert your hook into that same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the remaining 3 loops. And that is your cluster V-stitch. Next we're going to go ahead and skip 2 stitches, 1 and 2, and we're going to begin another cluster V-stitch. So this is going to be the start of your repeat. So skip 2 stitches, and in the stitch after that make your cluster V-stitch. Again, you're going to make a double crochet, but you're not going to finish your double crochet. You're going to yarn over and insert your hook back into that same stitch, make another double crochet. You're going to have your 3 loops on your hook, and you're going to pull through all 3, chain 1, and make another double crochet 2 together in the same stitch. Okay, so you're going to repeat this all the way down until you have 2 stitches remaining. So you're going to skip 2 stitches, and in the stitch after that make your cluster V-stitch. Continue that all the way down until you have 2 stitches remaining. Okay, I'm over at the end of row 2 and I have 2 stitches remaining. I'm going to skip 1 stitch. In the very last stitch I'm going to make a double crochet. So skip this stitch right here, and in the final stitch go ahead and make a double crochet. And then here is what your 2 rows are going to look like. Moving on to row 3, you're going to chain 1 and turn. And you're going to make 1 double crochet into the very first stitch. Remember that chain 1 does not count, and you're going to work a double crochet into that very first stitch. Now you're going to be working a cluster V-stitch in the middle of the cluster V-stitch from the previous row. So in that chain 1 space right here, you're going to be working your cluster V-stitches in the chain 1 space. So your cluster V stitches are going to be sitting right on top of one another from the previous row. So as you can see here, here's your first double crochet V-stitch right here, and here is your second cluster stitch right here. So working along the row, you're going to make a cluster V-stitch in each of the chain ones from the previous row. And when you do that, your stitches are going to be sitting on top of one another like I mentioned. Okay, so you're going to be doing that all the way across, so work a cluster V stitch in the chain one space from the previous row, and then when you get to the very end, you're going to make a double crochet right in that very last stitch. So after you make your final cluster stitch right here, you're going to find that very last stitch of the row, and that's going to be your double crochet stitch right here. That's when you're going to work your double crochet into that very last stitch. And that's pretty much for the pattern what you're going to do. You're just going to repeat row 3 over and over again until your desired height. For my blanket, I made 6 rows of each color, and I changed colors once, so you're going to have the same color twice in each of your blanket. So basically what I mean is when you use this linen color, you're going to have 2 sections of the linen color and then 2 sections of each of the other 3 colors as well. So if you wanted to change colors, let me show you how to do that. So I'm just going to start at the beginning of my row. So let me finish that double crochet, and I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to get my scissors and I'm going to cut a little bit of a tail, and then to introduce the new color, you're just going to leave a little bit of a tail, and I like to just lay it right over my crochet hook, and then I'm going to pull through with that new color, and then getting the ends of the 2 strands, you're going to pull that just to tighten a little bit. You're going to chain 1 and turn, and you're going to begin your blanket as you were making it for the previous row. So again, you're going to change colors every 6 rows. Unless you're using a solid color or a variegated color, you'll obviously be just working in the one color. So I had my blanket be a total of 48 cluster stitch rows, and then you have that single crochet row at the beginning. So this blanket is a total of 49 rows. So I really liked using this crochet hook and using a slightly bigger crochet hook for this project, as it worked up nice and quick. So let me show you the finished blanket one more time. So I have my blanket here, and I can show you how to weave in the ends. So I have the end right here. So you're just going to get a tapestry needle, and you're going to do this for all the ends of your blanket, and you're going to keep the same color end with the same color to hide it a little bit more. And you're simply just going to go in between the stitches to hide that tail. And what I like to do is I like to go in at least 3 different directions, just so I make sure that my end is very securely hidden. You can always do whatever you choose in order to hide your tail end for your projects. So again, I'm just going to be going in between the stitches in 3 different directions, just to really make sure that my tail end is nice and secure. So go ahead and do that. Make sure not to tug too tightly, otherwise your project will kind of dip in a little bit. And then go in another direction, just like that. And then finally I'm going to go back in another direction. So I just came out of this stitch right here, so I'm going to skip that and I'm going to go back in this direction, just like that. Okay, so once you have your tail nice and secure, you're going to get your scissors and you're going to cut close to the fabric just to get rid of that tail, and that's pretty much it. And again, you're going to be doing that with all the tail ends of your blanket. So this is what your cluster stitch is going to look like. I really did enjoy working with this yarn. I felt like it was super soft. It was very easy to work with. It glided right over my crochet hook, and I had absolutely no problems if I needed to tear the yarn out and frog it a little bit. And I really like the color choices. They were nice and vibrant, and I think this will be a perfect yarn to use for a baby blanket like I did here, or for any project really, especially if people have sensitivity to different yarn fibers and whatnot. I think this will be perfect for those people that have sensitive skin. So thank you so much for joining me today and learning how to make the cluster V-stitch baby blanket. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Please like, comment, and subscribe to see all future videos by me. And as always, happy crocheting! Bye!